All right, so what are we talking about today?
All right, so we're talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons with Nerdarchy in a castle. We've both been to D&D in a castle a couple times now. We're going to share some of those experiences, your most recent experience, and also let you folks know, if you're interested, you can still play D&D in a castle with us. And also we'll talk about like what that's going to look like.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. All right, so I guess first and foremost is, where is D&D in a castle located?
So D&D in a castle, last time and this time is in Durham, is just outside of Durham in the UK, United Kingdom, and it is Lumley Castle.
Yeah, it's a great place. I've been there twice, and just a handful of months ago, I was there to do my second round of D&D in a castle, and it's a great overall experience.
Yeah, and so far they've done 3 different castles. They've done Lumley Castle, which we just mentioned. They've done Langley Castle, which is a couple hours away from Lumley. And they've also done a castle in France. I don't remember the name of that one. And that was, I've actually been to all 3 of those. And also, though, for the real castle nerds out there, I think the one in France was actually considered like a fortified manor, not an actual castle. So actually...
Well, doesn't really matter where, these other ones are, as I believe they've got a contract with Lumley. That's where all of the future rounds are planning to be. That's where we're expected to be in July of 2023.
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about a little bit of our experiences. Like, so how we got connected to D&D in a castle was that I had randomly saw someone mention in a Facebook group that they were doing this thing called D&D in a castle, and actually they had a late cancel. So I reached out to them and talked to them, and they invited me to come out as a guest player. So I went out. So I flew out to France as a guest player, and got to sit at GM Tim's table and play as a player. It was a fantastic time. And through that experience and getting to meet the owners and operators of D&D in a castle, the organizers, we were able to connect with them. And the very next year, they offer Nerdarchy their very own castle, which is a whole story unto itself, because we were supposed to be a Caver's Wall castle. It's like one of the few castles left that actually has a moat, I understand. And the day we were leaving for D&D in a castle, we get contacted by our point person, and they're like, hey, I got some news for you. You're still going to a castle, but it's going to be a different castle.
Yeah, it was a bizarre experience where, there's a whole thing of foreclosure or something along those lines.
The bank seized the castle. Forget the goths. You need to worry about the bankers.
So
Bravos came in and they just took everything.
So it was very interesting. So we had this whole campaign prepped and planned based on locations and history of, this whole castle that we're now not gaming in. So,
yeah, and I guess that could go into a little bit of the style of like, how we run our games at D&D in a castle. In that particular instance, when we, when there was 3 of us, myself, you, and Nerdarchy Doug, we each had our own tables. And we kind of came up with a connective story that we put our own spin and worked our own different plot lines to, that culminated with it coming together. But a lot of it was based on the lore of the castle itself and what we researched about it, and like peacocks were a big deal with the castle, so we made them a big deal with our adventure. Apparently, just peacocks in general are a big deal with castles and royalty, is my understanding. But also, the Caver's Wall Castle, there's a small town that's located nearby, and that is where Lummy from Motorhead is actually from. So we actually made an NPC, like a Cosmic Imp style character, based on him. So when we got to the other castle, everything we had prepped
it's like,
was for this castle.
So that one was definitely one of those things that was like, well, we're just going to have to, adjust as needed. But, if you're familiar with Nerdarchy, it's one of those things that's what we do. We adjust, we amend, we twist as we play because we are very, reactionary GMs.
Now, we had done some research, like I did some research when we actually got to Lumley, and apparently, like, there was some kind of sordid love affair and possible murder that happened there, so there was a ghost involved. And one of my players, like, their character was looking for their missing daughter, I want to say. And so, because everyone was kind of plucked from where they were from by this cosmic imp and shunted through time and space, I actually had, the missing daughter actually was here. And the missing daughter was the ghost. But it happened a long time ago. And so the player's character was able to put that ghost to rest. And also, they were all granted like magic boons for that, and like they had basically some of their gear was all turned into magic items.
Cool. Well, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there are multiple ghosts or hauntings within Lumley Castle, and one is, and I'm hoping I got this right because this is plucking it out of my shoddy memory, but in the Scepter Room there is a statue, and when I was there last, the Scepter Room was where I gamed in for my 6 sessions plus the 2 one-shots that I ran.
Did you see the ghost?
I didn't see the ghost, but they say that the statue that's in that room, and literally you open the door and boom, it's right there. They say the statue moves. So just about every single time I walked in that room, sometimes while I'm gaming, sometimes, while I'm, was sitting there prepping, like all of a sudden, it looked like, there was movement out of the corner of my eye. And so I would say, yeah, that statue is totally moving.
That statue is definitely haunted. The statue gets up and flips the table. This game's bullshit, and then goes back to being a statue.
It wasn't quite like that, and the person's gonna flip the table in the Scepter Room. That takes some serious thews.
All right, so let's get into what people can expect and what we plan on doing, for people that come hang out with us at D&D in the Castle.
So the general format of D&D in a Castle is an amazing experience. You come in on your first day, you tend to go hang out at their local, inside the castle, their local bar or drink place, and your DM comes in and calls out the name of the players so that you can then go with the DM and go to your gaming room, which is generally where you're going to be for the duration for each of your gaming sessions. And you have your session 0, and this is where you work through what characters you're going to play, what story elements that you want in, as well as going over any kind of safety things, protocols, X cards, whatever it is that works with that particular DM and the players. You then have a banquet that evening where you go through like a 6 or a 7 course meal. There's dancing, there's music. It's an absolutely grand time. Then you have 3 days of gaming. Over those 3 days, you have 3 gaming sessions, generally divided, set up where you have an open session on each of those days that you can then go do one-shots or, incorporate any of the other elements that they have there at the castle. When I was there last, they had Joe Levin from Encounter Terrain. He was, teaching mini painting and terrain building, and it was a grand time. So all of these extra things that are there, I know when we're going to be there, Jeremy Crawford is going to be, there, and I believe he's running some one-shots. So there's definitely a lot of fun things that are going to be incorporated you can be able to do beyond just gaming with us.
Yeah, so each day you have 2 sessions. However, it's broken up. There's a morning, afternoon, and evening slot. 2 of them are with your GMs in the campaign that you're playing in for a total of 6 sessions. And then you end up with 3 open slots to play in one-shots, play amongst yourselves, board games, go out and explore, do whatever you want to do, essentially.
So it's a lot of fun, compressed down into those 3 days. So 24 hours of gaming, of a campaign, all in 3 days. It's just dynamite.
Yeah, and it's all inclusive. Like the food's included, your stay's all included. You know, the gaming's included. The only thing they don't include is booze, but that's because they don't want a bunch of drunk people running around ruining everyone's D&D games. Was the thoughts there? Now you could still be drunk and ruin other people's D&D games,
But it's on your dime.
But it's on your dime. I recommend you don't do that at D&D in a castle or in general. It's not fun for anyone, and you won't be invited back.
Indeed.
So we're asked to do like little write-ups over on D&D in a castle, and we did, and you know we're gonna give you ours, and then kind of like after we do, we'll kind of go into it a little bit more in depth here. So I like to specialize in customizing D&D sessions and campaigns to the players through unique play experience. I want to play aquatic campaign where you save a coral kingdom from an ancient prophecy. How about D&D where you speed across a magic blasted wasteland in a post-apocalyptic world as you and your motorcycle gang scavenge for survival and perhaps a big score? Ever want to play a campaign where humans are the minority in a land of the lost style setting ruled by dragon empires and dominant reptilian species who worship the 5 elements alongside their draconic rulers? So essentially, what about Dungeons, Dragons, and mechs? You and your team might be the only ones able to keep literal giants and enormous monsters from destroying civilization, while you and your trusty Arcana mechs to even the playing field for your clash with these titans. So basically, like, I would have come up with different weird experiences that people are going to be able to partake in. Like, these are some examples, not necessarily what I'm going to run at D&D in a castle, but what I want to do is once I get all my players together, and we still have some slots left, is get all their feedback, and then I'll kind of like crunch all that together and be like, and then I'll spit out some synapses for games that maybe aren't standard D&D fantasy tropes that you're used to playing. And then from that, I'll have you guys vote on them to see what is the most favorable. And it's kind of how I run my own games, like my home games, because I want to do 2 things. One, I want to make sure it's something that the players are all interested in. And 2, most importantly, I want to make sure it's a game I want to run, because if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to be able to give you a game an experience that's going to be fun for you. So generally what I do is like I like to give 3-4 suggestions, like brief write-ups, and then I have everyone rank them in the order that they prefer, and then then we calculate what is the most popular. And hopefully people are on the same page, and like people, no one gets stuck with their number 4 pick. But in the past, it's worked out pretty well, where it's like the number 1 or number 2 spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a great way, and we've been gaming that way for a while. I plan on doing something similar. My gaming style is I enjoy all pillars of the game: combat, exploration, and social encounters, but I prefer exploration and social, as my games tend to be combat light. I love inter-party role-playing, player agency, and incorporating player story and wishes into the games. DMing style brings My playing style brings improvisational and reactionary style to the table, but be prepared, as not all combats are going to be a cakewalk. Boss battles bring the tension and complexity, and might just require quick thinking and proper battle tactics to win the day. So I too like to incorporate the elements of player wishes into the game. I know that D&D in a Castle has the Tavern, which is the site for being able to interact with your fellow players as well as your GM. So that's a great place to be able to meet up and begin throwing out those kind of ideas of like, all right, what kind of game are you into? I actually did an article over on the website that I talked about some of the possible options that I'm interested in throwing out there for D&D in a Castle. I was, talking about, doing something that actually involved a little bit of time travel, going back through the different ages of our particular world, or, looking at some of the other things, that are out there. If you search Nerdarchy, for D&D in a Castle, it's probably one of the most recent things that I wrote, so you can go check out those kind of things there.
Yeah, when we were supposed to originally do our next gig at D&D in the Castle, it got canceled because of, the world ending and all. Eberron had just really come out, and at that time I was really excited to see if people were interested in playing an Eberron game. And in Eberron, you have the dragon marked houses. But prior to the dragon marked houses, there was other kind of marks, and they still kind of pop up from time to time, called aberrant dragon marks. And the houses tried to eliminate them. Well, in the past, like, they all got together and been like, we don't want to be eliminated. We want to be our own house, and they fought back. So I want to do a War of the Mark game. And if people are down for that, I would still probably do that, where you either get to be, you can't do both, but you either have to all be aberrant marks or all be dragon marks. And, you know, from there, we'll kind of put it together. I might even do some special rules like, oh, you get your dragon mark feat for free. Like, you don't have to pay for that. Kind of like almost like the new Dragonlance setting in the Strixhaven, where it's like, nah, this is just part of the world and the game. Right. You all have aberrant marks, or you all have the standard marks. Yeah, an extra bonus feat at first level is definitely one of those things that seems to be becoming, you know, more and more popular, and fits very well for let's make a themed game. You know, if everybody has access to, you know, this certain array of abilities, like, you know, it's like, all right, well, what does that mean for this particular campaign? Yeah, so should be a lot of fun. We will put details down below in the description so you can check it out. You know, I believe you can even put down a deposit, which I believe is refundable up to a certain point. So if you're not sure and you just want to like hold a place, you could do that and check it out. We are really looking forward to gaming with you and playing D&D in a castle with you folks. Every time we've done it in the past, it's been an amazing experience. Indeed. So let us know, what kind of games do you think we should run in D&D in a castle? Is this something you're interested? Let us know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to do all those fun things like share, subscribe, click on that notification bell. You know you want to. Quick reminder, we drop several videos a week, so come on back. But you can't wait till then? No worries, we got you covered. Check out a real-life D&D adventure with D&D in a Castle. So until next time, stay nerdy.